Hey everyone, Crystal Harper here from eteachonline.com, and today's topic is going to be all about creating an e-learning course made simple. But specifically, I will discuss with you how to organize your content with storyboards, how to create the syllabus, and selecting the media, materials, tools, and resources. But before I share this process with you, I'd like to say one thing. This isn't going to be the most mind-blowing process you've ever seen, because it shouldn't be. When starting anything, the trick to get moving is to start simple. This process is very simple, and I promise that it works if you take the time to actually implement it. When creating and developing an e-learning course, it's important that you know what content you intend to include in the course you will be creating. If you have no idea where to begin with this, that's okay, because I put together an organized storyboarding checklist and tutorial to help you begin determining the necessary components that you should consider including. I'm going to play the tutorial for you now, so be sure to download this checklist on this training page. Storyboards plot out e-learning course content, structure, and overall flow of the course. Building a storyboard is great practice when determining what media to utilize in your course, as it gives you the opportunity to think about how and where elements will fit into the course. It will also help you with determining whether you have considered all the necessary content to include in your course. In order for content to be presented effectively, it's essential for it to be accurately prepared. Instructional techniques need to be developed creatively through an engaging and motivating learning experience. Content can consist of many different elements, ranging from documents and presentations to interactive simulations and job aids. This video will mainly focus on the development of interactive courses, which is the most common form of developing e-learning content. Interactive content allows for teachers to use a variety of techniques and media. It's very likely that most of the content for your course you're creating is already available. Some examples of already made content may include user manuals, classroom course handouts, lectures, slideshow presentations, documented case studies, training materials, reference materials, and illustrative materials such as photographs, images, graphs, and tables. It's important to note that already made materials must be carefully designed and structured in alignment with instructional support in order to determine how learners can function throughout the course. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over a storyboarding checklist that I created. The storyboarding checklist that I will provide you is a guide. Depending on the online course that you're creating, some of the topics might not be applicable for your course, but the storyboarding checklist will be really helpful for you in organizing all the content for your online course. And then I will also be going over a sample storyboard that I created myself so that you can see a real visual representation of what a storyboard actually looks like. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so here we go. Right here is a storyboarding checklist that you can also download. If you look in the description of this video, I will give you access to download this checklist for free. Also, these are some sample storyboards that I created myself that will go along as we go through this checklist so you can get a better visual representation of what a storyboard actually looks like. Okay, so first are the basic elements. You need a project title and individual page title. So that goes right here, project title and the lesson title, and right here is the actual page title. You also need to have the text that will be presented on a page to display. So right here under script is all of the text that will be on the page. I also want to mention this too, that every single page that you will be putting onto your course is going to have an individual storyboard. So every page is going to have an outline just like this. Next is the graphics, such as images that will be utilized, any background image, and the overall layout of the content. So right here is where you list the graphics. You also need to include video media or a description of a link to the source of the video. So right here are some YouTube videos that are going to be included in this course. Next is the audio transcript, such as voiceover narration. And there is no audio transcript for this page, so it is not applicable. And next is navigation information, such as links that will be included in the page being described and where they will take the learner. And right here is where you include the links. Each page or slide of planned e-learning content is represented in the storyboard. I mentioned that before. Okay. You also might want to consider including a syllabus link on the storyboard so that your students can easily refer back to the syllabus at any moment. This is just a reminder saying to know your course goal. Always keep that in mind as you're creating your storyboard. It's a good idea to keep about 3 to 4 objectives per module. So actually, for example, in this module, there is only one terminal objective, but 2 enabling objectives. This is a good thing to keep in mind because when students are going through an online course, if one module takes them forever to get through, they feel like they're not really accomplishing anything. So it's just a good idea to keep in mind to only have about like one lesson per module, kind of like each module they should be able to get through in about a week, so they feel like they're actually progressing through the course. Some of these are also just some reminders. Create assessment criteria. That needs to be included in the storyboard that you create for your assessment. The storyboard is also where you're going to be showing your design elements, such as your background color, your color schemes, and then your text attributions as well. It's also important that you've already selected your authoring tool, your learning management system. The more popular ones I would say are Canvas, D2L, or Moodle, and I know a lot of teachers right now are using Google Classroom. It's also important to keep in mind to use a variety, at least 3 to 5 forms of interactive content or media on each storyboard that you're creating. But there's also exceptions, of course. Also determine the lesson's content sequence. Content within lessons are structured into a sequence of slides corresponding to the screens of the final interactive lesson. So this is a great and very common way to lay out your pages. The first page will be learning objectives, and then the next 2 to 3 screens will be the introduction, and the content can go anywhere from 4 to 25 screens. 25 is kind of a lot, but the content usually is, I would say, closer maybe to 4 to 10 pages, depending. And then the last page will be your summary screen. Okay, so you need to use at least 2 different techniques to present content. This includes storytelling, scenario-based approaches, a toolkit approach, and demonstration practice method. So just be sure to keep that in mind when you're creating your modules, that you include some of these techniques as you're going through the course. These techniques really help with keeping your students engaged, so it's super important. Also, be sure to include examples in each of the lessons, both inductively and deductively. It's also a good idea to integrate different media to present the examples as well. Also, be sure to use diagrams, graphics, and flowcharts when possible. Use lists or tables. These are all, remember, just suggestions, but great ways to help engage your learners. Next is language style. Be sure that the content within each module is written directly, simply, and clearly. Avoid jargon, and also be sure to be sensitive to your students that are not native English speakers. Use personal pronouns and be gender inclusive. Use bulleted lists when possible and an active voice. This just really helps with the flow of the course. I don't think it's mentioned in here, but white space is really important in an online course. When there's so much content all mashed together, it kind of overwhelms the students. So it's really good to space out. I honestly space sentences one to two every sentence. I'll make a space. It just helps. It helps your students read the text easier. Next is graphics. Graphics include illustrations, pictures, diagrams, and icons. So the graphics include a variety of different communication functions, including decorative, representational, mnemonic, organizational, relational, transformational, and interpretive. Be sure to avoid graphics that may not have real function in complementing the information in your text. And when using narration, present corresponding graphics and spoken words at the same time. Use digitized photographs too when creating a realistic context. So ensure that diagrams, graphics, and screenshots correspond to their descriptions as well. Now, next is audio. Be sure to keep your audio short and use audio to complement the visual elements. Avoid redundant audio. And also avoid adding extraneous audio such as background music and sounds. It's just unnecessary and distracting. Lastly is video. Be sure that your videos are always accompanied by comments, and also avoid using videos that only show a teacher speaking. Okay, so if you're all set and have a clear idea of the content you intend to include in your e-learning course, then you're ready for the next step. If you're not ready, pause this video and come back when you're ready. Go ahead and complete the storyboarding checklist before moving forward. Be sure to include all the components that you intend to include in your online course. This is also a great exercise because it trains us right from the beginning to organize and review all the content you intend to use in the course. When you lay out all of the materials in the very beginning, you will find much more success down the road. Again, we're going to keep this simple. Nothing fancy just yet, just simple action taking. So once you've determined all the content for your online course by determining the necessary components you intend to include, you need to then set aside a chunk of time. I recommend at least 1 to 2 hours to complete your e-learning course syllabus. Increasingly, the syllabus has come to be the contract between learner and instructor, laying out the terms of course interactions such as the expected responsibilities and duties, the musts and don'ts of behavior. Whatever kind of participation is expected in your online course, you should make that explicit in the syllabus. So begin your e-learning course syllabus following the provided checklist provided with this training. Here are some other things to keep in mind as you go along. Be sure to include in your syllabus what learners can expect of the instructor, like how they will get feedback and support, contact information, and what other materials they need to be successful in the course, etc. Also include what the instructor will expect from their learners, such as assignment deadlines, formal or informal language, expectations, and their expectations. Whether working alone or as part of a team to develop your course, the syllabus is an important part of course development, regardless of delivery format. The traditional e-learning syllabus should include not only a schedule of topics, readings, activities, and assignments, but also such elements such as goals, objectives, or expected outcomes for the course, grading policies, procedures, and any other information necessary for the learners to succeed. It's a good idea that you separate the various elements, as they are all staple aspects of any course syllabus. They are perhaps even more important for an e-learning course. Learners tend to feel somewhat disoriented without the familiar first day speeches from their instructor. It's typical for first-time designers to include too little detail in their syllabi. Unfortunately, this can cause some serious future problems if the syllabus isn't thorough and detailed. Other information of contractual nature that you might want to incorporate in your syllabus includes the policy on late assignments, the instructor's availability for real-time chat appointments, or their virtual office hours. What is meant by participation in the online setting won't be obvious to the learners. Participation needs to be defined. For example, are they posting messages in a discussion board, or are they just logging on and reading? Perhaps participation includes taking part in an online group presentation or showing up for a real-time chat. Whatever kind of participation you expect in your course, you should make that explicit in the syllabus. Another consideration in asynchronous courses is the degree of self-pacing allowed. Will the learners follow a chronological order of topics in their participation, or can they go back and respond to previous week's topics? Can they complete assignments at different times during the course? The answer to these questions really depend on the nature of your course. The tasks of managing expectations is very important in e-learning. Some learners expect it to be much easier than a regular course. Others imagine that the course will be something like independent study. The syllabus, as well as the introductory comments, can help manage such expectations and set a stage for a smooth unfolding of the e-learning course. In the territory of e-learning and instructional design, learners view the syllabus as if it were a roadmap. They want to know how to proceed and where everything is located. The learners need to know where to find the component parts of the course and under what headings. If the discussion forum or other software is hosted on an outside site, the learners need to be told that. The course should be laid out by weeks for the learners and then later separated into modules. This is commonly the way that the students will gauge their own participation and work. Also use specific dates instead of simply listing the course schedule. It should include specific dates for each module, week, or topic area to be covered. This is particularly important for asynchronous courses where the learners may be logging in at different times and days during the week. It's quite common for them to lose track of the weeks when following an asynchronous online schedule. Some learning management systems include a calendar feature that you may use to reinforce the dates for each segment of the course. It's also important that your schedule is readable and easily scanned by the eye. You need to have clear and consistent headings and spacing that allows one to grasp the what and the when or the how of each week, task, or assignment. If the schedule is complicated with many contingent tasks or contains many different readings or activities, a table is often the better solution. So as you've probably gathered, the online course syllabus is a vital piece of creating an e-learning course. The downloadable syllabus checklist will help you understand the many components discussed. Remember that this is a draft, and you will add more definition and clarity to your syllabus as you create your course and build your skills. Okay, so now at this point, you should have completed your storyboarding checklist and created the online course syllabus. Your next task is to determine the assignments, assessments, and how to appropriately communicate with the learners. There are a variety of trainings in the eLearning and Instructional Design for Beginners community that will assist you in determining, implementing, and creating all these pieces. They are all located in Step 3 of the Harper method, Select and Prepare Media, Materials, and Resources. So that's it for the training. You should now have a much clearer idea on how to get started with creating an e-learning course. Now go into the community and continue learning the Harper method so that you can create all of your materials for your course.